Welcome to the Jake Soul Podcast. On today's episode, we have our good friend, our neighbor, and soon-to-be mother, Jen Hollans. Jen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Also joining us, since we're going to be talking about pregnancy and babies and becoming a mom, the house expert, my wife, Jill.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Third time on the show. Back by popular demand, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Jen, how you feeling? How's pregnancy been going for you?
I'm doing good. I'm in month 7, and I'm just getting larger by the day. But mostly, I haven't had any problems right now, so I'm actually feeling pretty good. I'm getting to the tired stages, though.
Yeah. Now, you guys had quite the journey to get to this point in pregnancy. Now, you had how many miscarriages?
3.
When was the first one?
2 of them actually happened in 2016. So they were natural. It was early, week 7, both of them. So barely just got the pink line, oh, we're pregnant. And then a week later, just kidding, you're not pregnant. So going from that, though, I learned probably close to 2017, I go for my year PAP with my doctor, and they tell me I have precancerous cells on my cervix. And I'm like, well, maybe that's what caused the 2 miscarriages then, kind of you try to rationalize it in your head. And so then I begin that journey, after having the 2 miscarriages. So I'm thinking, all right, just going off of what the doctor tells you. They start doing tests, doing biopsies, and then I end up having to have surgery on my cervix. And they said this is possibly something that could make it where you're infertile. And that's one of the risks of it, because they took like a third of my cervix. And I said, okay. I was always super regular. So it's like I knew exactly where I should start. And, but basically, after the surgery, I thought, well, let's try again. Maybe that was the cause, and it just wasn't the time then. And so we started, and then we got pregnant again in 2017, right when we moved across the street and from you guys. And Jill was actually expecting during the time. So how far along were you then?
Oh, I think I was 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
I was pretty big already.
So, and I had just found out, we literally just moved in for a month, and I had just found out, that we were expecting again.
Now, after the first couple, obviously you had your issues. Was there a difference between the first couple where you thought, okay, this is natural, and then the third one, was there really concern that you guys might not be able to have a baby?
Yes, absolutely. Because everything had gone fine. I had had good checkups with my doctor afterwards, and I thought, okay, this is our time. We're going to do it. We've got a clean bill of health and everything. And probably it wasn't until we go to the 12-week ultrasound that I find out that there's no heartbeat. So that was very shocking to go that long thinking you're pregnant and you're not.
Yeah, and it was kind of, I don't want to say weird. It was kind of hard for Jill and I, because Jill was expecting at the same time, and when we first met you told us, and then we found out you guys weren't, and we felt, I wouldn't say guilty, but kind of, I don't know how to describe it, because we knew we were, Blair was coming, and we were a lot farther along, and then to find out you guys weren't going to be able to have this one, it was kind of, I don't know, like an elephant in the room. Like we was afraid to, walk by your guys' house. It was just kind of one of those, we didn't want to feel like we were showing our baby off.
Yeah. And I told Jill, we had had lunch one time, and I just explained to her, I was like, I am so sorry. I was not neighborly at all. Like, you're going through, your first child, and I go, I definitely was not there for you guys, and I felt bad, and I apologized to her. So
yeah, well, there's no need for that. We felt bad for you guys, because we had, Blair had came along, and we're like, we don't want to like say, hey, you go for walks, and Blair would be there.
And I think that brings up a big issue. It's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's almost like people, like Jake said, it's almost like it's the elephant in the room, but no one knows how to address it. We don't know how to address it. You don't know how to address it. I've had other friends that have had miscarriages and multiple miscarriages. And it is, it's one of those things that it's like you just don't know what to say or what to do. And so someone that's been on the other end, what's been something that's been helpful to you, or someone said or did, has anything been helpful?
I think I am better now with helping other people when I come across those scenarios. But at the time, during each one, like, nobody could say anything to me. Nothing helped. I was just kind of stuck in my own head. I did have a couple supportive friends that are really close to me, and one who kind of had a similar situation. She found out that after 12 weeks, her kid didn't have a heartbeat. I won't say her name or anything like that, just protect their privacy because I didn't ask them. But I knew she had personally gone through it, so it was nice to hear her story. And it helped me be able to kind of get through my situation.
I don't think we realized until we, was trying to get pregnant how often it does happen. It seems
It's
like
very
yeah,
common.
but you hardly hear about it. And so
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like nobody wants to talk about it, and I don't want to speak for someone that has had, I mean, I haven't had one, unfortunately, and I don't want to speak for someone that has, but it's almost like they don't want to put it out there. Some women do, some women don't, but I feel like there's just been that like stigma with it, and I don't know why, and I don't know, what we can do about it, I guess.
I think part of it, a lot of it's just natural, and there's not a lot you can do about it. So maybe people don't want to talk about it because there's nothing to be done about it.
That's exactly kind of how my doctor put it too. He goes, these things just happen. There's nothing we can really do to explain it, and it's just your body's natural reaction. And they try to make you feel better, but at the same time, you're like, I did something,
Oh, right.
like I not drink enough water, or, follow, the steps you're supposed to. Did I not take enough prenatals, or should I?
Why is my body rejecting
Exactly.
this?
And then you feel it's like a personal failure because basically you're like, I'm a woman, this is supposed to naturally happen. Why is it everybody else can do these things, but I can't?
Yeah, and that's, me and Jill talked about that. We're over here with a new baby and all this, and we knew you guys were over there, and like I said, you were struggling, and it's tough. Did you guys ever think about adoption?
We actually talked about it, and we decided together as a couple that we weren't going to ever adopt. It just wasn't something that was in our life plan. We didn't want to have to go through all the hoops, the letdowns that come with adoption. We had already gone through 3 disappointments, and we just didn't think we could emotionally handle any letdowns that came with the adoption. So we kind of took the approach of, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen naturally, and we'll just leave it into, nature's hands, God's hands.
Yeah, a friend of ours, or a few friends of ours, have went through the adoption process, and there's been a couple of them that would get the phone call, and then the mom would keep it. So you would wait 9 months or 8 months after they found out they were going to get a baby, and then, yeah, I can imagine going through that after everything you went through. With this pregnancy now, that, you're obviously very far along, everything's going really good. Did you do anything different, like you mentioned prenatals, or just?
I didn't. That is the weirdest thing throughout all of this. So I kind of call it my miracle baby, but I didn't do anything differently, actually. I was talking to Jill one time when we were hanging out that I was swimming in the hot tub for an hour, which is like a big no-no when you're pregnant. That's, they tell you don't do that. And I was swimming in our hot tub for an hour, and I had some drinks, more than a couple. So, all during the time I was pregnant, and I didn't realize it yet until I'd missed my first period. So that's the weird part. I didn't do anything extra. I didn't do any extra fertility treatments. I didn't take any pills to help me. It just naturally happened again.
At what point did you start to feel a little relief that this one was going to work out?
Well, I made the doctors bring me in at 6 weeks. Oh, it was almost 7 weeks, sorry. and said, I want an ultrasound. I know it's really early, but I'd rather deal with the disappointment earlier than wait another 12 weeks again and see that there's no heartbeat. And they brought me in there and they said, yep, you have a nice strong heartbeat. Everything looks good. So that was a relief there.
And I'm sure at each appointment, it just got better and better, and you got more and more relaxed.
Yes. So every time I go to the doctor, even still now in 7 months, I'm still freaking out. You know, I just still like, is there still a heartbeat? Is everything okay? And they're like, you're fine. Everything's good to go. It actually was kind of interesting though. And I always tell people, take what your doctor says sometimes with a grain of salt, because during the first couple of weeks of this pregnancy, I basically asked him, well, you know, you told me that because I had this cervical surgery, I might not be able to carry the baby full term. Is everything okay? Do we need to do extra appointments? Then they mentioned that since I'm 34, I'm going to be 35 when I have this baby, I was high risk. And I would have to, you know, have an ultrasound every single month, and they'd have to check my cervix and make sure everything was okay. They might possibly have to sew me up in order to keep the baby in place for 9 months. And so that was all scary. And so it's probably at 12 weeks, I go to the prenatal specialist at Ball Hospital, do an ultrasound there, and the tech goes, I don't have half your history. She was like, none of this that you're explaining to me is on your medical chart. And I'm like, that's odd. What do you mean? So basically, I asked her, well, this is my history. Can you write it down? Can you put it in the books? Can you call Voss Center? Can you confirm that? And she did. And then after that, everybody's like, oh, you're not high risk anymore. You're fine. So it was kind of interesting to learn that from the doctors.
Has this pregnancy been pretty normal? Any of the sickness that some women get, the nausea?
I just had sickness like in the first couple months. Didn't really get sick too much. I just lost my appetite. But other than that, it's been a smooth pregnancy. I'm very, very grateful. I don't know.
That's
to
good.
going through all those 3 other ones and to now, I just kind of consider myself super lucky. I don't know how else to describe it.
I didn't have much of the sickness at the beginning either. There were times that I would lose my appetite or feel nauseous. I remember there would be a couple of times driving to work, and I at that time would drive 25 minutes, and there would be times where I would just feel like I wanted to throw up, like I just wanted to pull over and throw up, but I never got to that point. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I always felt pretty good. And we've talked about this before. I had super bad heartburn, and you've not had any heartburn yet. And I know there's that myth, if you experience a lot of heartburn, your baby's going to have a lot of hair. But Blair, I guess he'd have medium.
He had a decent amount of hair.
Decent, yeah. But maybe you have a bald baby. Who knows? Have they been able to see the hair on the ultrasounds at all?
No. So that was one thing I didn't understand, obviously getting this far along in pregnancy. When they did the 20-week anatomy scan to make sure, there's 10 fingers and toes, there's not, an extra horn growing out of its head. So basically I asked, they did the 3D ultrasound, but you couldn't see anything else. And I haven't had an ultrasound since then. So I wasn't aware that they didn't do me anymore after that.
Right. And I think it's, if they don't see any red flags or concerns, that's pretty much the only one you get. And especially if there's nothing wrong with you, diabetes or any other concerns. And I don't think we've talked about this on our podcast. We had something come up in ours with Blair at I think I was about 18 and a half weeks when we had our anatomy scan. And they found, I don't remember the technical term for it, but it was a cyst on his brain. And when the nurse practitioner told us about it, she didn't seem too concerned. And she said, do not go home and Google it, or you will just give yourself nightmares.
That's one of the worst things I think any mother can do.
Right. They told us that from the beginning. I forget what doctor it was. They were like, do not go, like, don't use Dr. Google. If you have a question, call us. But they said, don't go home and Google it. They wanted us to, I think we did an ultrasound. They want us to come in like 4 weeks after that.
It was around 22 to 24 weeks, I think.
Yeah. And we went to the hospital to do that ultrasound as well. And they were able to see it, and they called it a pimple on the brain was the layman's term for this cyst. And I remember the doctor saying it's not sitting on anything. I think it was right next to some gland. I can't even recall the name of it. Adrenal gland,
like
maybe. And his prognosis was it's just going to dissolve. It's the bigger he gets, the smaller the cyst is going to get. And he said, if you were to scan a lot of our brains, a lot of us have them probably, but they don't do anything to cause any issues.
Yeah, because when we were born in the 80s, they didn't have that technology, so I'm sure any of us could have had something like that. But yeah, like Jill said, the Googling stuff, don't do it. I'm sure they told you the same thing, because you can really scare yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hear the horror stories. So that ultrasound was at, like you said, about 22 weeks.
Yeah, that wasn't a normal ultrasound.
And then we had to go in for another one. I was probably 8 months pregnant then. Yeah. It was in November, beginning of November. And I think that was finally when Blair had turned. So he was head down. And the ultrasound tech, since he was so low, she goes, I don't even see the cyst at this time. So they had determined it had dissolved like it should have. And she said, if there's anything, once the doctor looks at these ultrasound pictures, if there's anything he's concerned with, we'll have you come back. And we never went back in.
So any crazy cravings or...
No, I still eat everything like I did before. My husband and I are foodies, so I eat pretty much everything except, the bad things like don't eat the deli meat, the listeria stuff, and cut back on fish intake, once a week. So I don't have anything where I'm like, oh, I got to have this and that.
Is there anything that you used to like and now you can't really stomach it? Or just it sounds gross to you?
No, Jake and I were talking about that, and really, I still eat the exact same things I did as before. So, and there's nothing that's grossing me out right now, so that's pretty nice.
I was kind of the same way. I never craved anything weird. There were certain things that I craved, I guess. I loved bagels and cream cheese. I think I had one almost every morning. But there was one thing that completely grossed me out, and it was ribs. I saw a commercial and had ribs on it, and I almost wanted to throw up. And I didn't, it was specifically ribs, but I think any meat on the bone, I don't think I could have stomached it. And then once I had him, then I was fine.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the barbecue shows, cooking shows, and there would be some I literally have to turn off because they'd be like, we're cooking ribs or we're cooking a whole hog or anything like that. And Jill's like, nope, can't do it. Get it out of here.
That's funny.
It was really the only thing that I guess grossed me out that I had liked previously.
So now that you're a couple months out, is the nerves starting to the fears and concerns, anything particular?
Yes, I still have concerns every time I go to the doctor. Like I said, I have another appointment coming up on Tuesday, March 5th. And, they're just going to do a quick in and out, check your heartbeat, your vitals. But I still always think there's something that's going to go wrong. And I ask, why do I still do that? That's kind of odd knowing that everything's going perfectly well. But I just want to make sure that, if there is some distress, like we're catching it early, get ahead of it. That's me just trying to be a control freak, I'm sure. So...
How about as far as becoming a mom? I know it's a very overwhelming, but anything particular that's kind of got you worried?
Oh, I'm terrified of everything. And I ask questions all the time to people who are moms. Like, I talk Jill's ear off all the time. I'm like, how do you do this? How do you do that? I don't really know. I mean, like I said, I didn't think this was going to happen. So I just kind of prepared myself to go through life just being my husband and I, and retiring early and having our 3 dogs. And those were going to be my kids, just little fur babies.
Yeah, I think the whole situation is just overwhelming becoming a parent, because as many classes as you can take and books you can read until you get home, that's when it really hit us, I think, when we got home. And we talked about it in another podcast. In the hospital, I'm not saying it's easy, but there's nurses. They help you out very well.
You can pass your baby off to a nurse. Because here in Muncie at Ball Hospital, there is no nursery anymore. They're considered baby friendly. And so the baby's in the room with you 24/7. So the days of, just sending them to the nursery for a couple hours, that doesn't exist. But the nurses do say if you absolutely need a break or someone to take the baby, they will take them for a couple hours so you can sleep.
And see, I'm glad you bring that up. Had you not mentioned that, I would have expected there was a nursery you could send your kid to. Let me get some hours of sleep.
I think you had said that one time. You're like, I'm just going to send her to the nursery. I'm like, there is no nursery anymore.
The nursery consists of one of the interns sitting with your baby at the reception desk just to give you an hour or two. So, yeah, as soon as your daughter is born and you get to your room, that's it. There's a little, clear plastic thing with a mattress in it that the baby will sleep in, and she's right next to your bed. Here you go.
This is great. Thank you, because now I can prep my husband, who is not a planner whatsoever, exactly what's going to happen, so maybe he doesn't freak out so much.
And I think that first night, and again, we talked about this before, the first night was fine, but I think I literally woke up about every 10 minutes. And again, being a new mom, and it's the first night, they've been in your little cocoon of a womb for 9 months, and it's the first night, he's a foot away. But I would wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, where is he? Is he okay? Okay, good. He's breathing. All right, he's right there. And then I go back to sleep. And it literally just felt like every 10 minutes. And you're so exhausted from, the prior 24 hours pretty much. But that first night, oh man, I woke up all the time. Just, where is he? What's he doing? Where's he at?
And, I don't know if Matt will stay in the room with you or not, or if he'll go home, but it's kind of like a fold out little couch thing. And it's not the most comfortable, so it's not he's going to get much sleep on that either. Especially because for me, because I'm 6'4", my feet were hanging off the ends.
Yeah, I can't imagine you getting any sleep in a hospital room. I've seen what they've looked like before from my other friend that just had a baby about 6 months ago. They're at Ball, so at least I'm not surprised what they're going to look like. But
and they're very nice rooms. I mean, It's very nice. They're roomy, and what they say, 90% of the time you get a room to yourself, so you shouldn't have to worry about a roommate. But as nice as they are, it's uncomfortable. How is Matt looking forward to this? Your husband, Matt?
He's getting excited. Now that we're a couple months away, he's prepping, buying little onesies, buying little stuffed animals for her. So I feel like he's getting more involved and excited. And I think it helps hearing news from you, kind of your story, then it helps him prepare kind of what to do too.
Yeah, it's weird because everyone talks when you first see your baby, you're going to have all these emotions. It sounds bad. I didn't have a lot of that. I was like, do I hold him? Do I let the nurses hold him? Does Jill need to hold him? I didn't know what to do. I felt like you're awkward with your hands. You don't know what to do with him. That's how I was with Blair. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And of course, Jill held him first for quite a while.
I don't think Jake held Blair till he was over an hour old.
But literally right after he was born, because they had to take him over and weigh him, and he was a little lethargic, so they had to get him going. I'm just sitting there, and the nurses are working on Jill, the nurses are working on Blair, and I'm just kind of standing there. I look like a deer in headlights. I don't know what to do.
He's like, do I go tend to Blair? Do I tend to my wife? What do I do? And the labor rooms are huge. The mom and baby rooms are so. The labor rooms are huge. So Blair was literally across the room from me when they were working on him, weighing him, doing all that stuff. And so Jake was literally just kind of just standing there like, what do I do?
Completely overwhelmed.
I think I even told you, I'm like, go see him, go, make sure he's okay, or I think I even said, I'm like, go take some pictures of him.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. So if Matt has that deer in headlight looks, don't worry, I had the same thing.
Good.
There's no problem with that.
Try not to take it out on him.
Yeah. Let's let it go. How about getting prepared as far as you guys getting the stroller and all that bought, car seat and all that bought yet?
We do. We have most of the main items that you need. We got a baby shower coming up here, 1st of April. So hoping we'll get the rest of the items that we need there. But we did an online parenting class where you just answer some questions and here's general information. We have weird schedules. He's a police officer, so he's working 12 shifts, and sometimes he does off duty after hours. So to kind of get to these classes sometimes are impossible. And he's so tired, I don't know if he's going to even absorb the information. So it was just kind of easier to sit in our home and look on the internet and go through something like that. But other than that, we've got pretty much the nursery ready to go. Just need to get a dresser, do some organization, last minute nesting stuff, but we'll be finished after that.
Yeah, the classes are great, but like you said, I think a lot of it is just knowing people who've been through it. Because, when the baby's screaming at 3 a.m. and you're very tired and you can't get him or her to sleep, you're not thinking about that class. You're thinking, who can I text right now, or who can I ask about this, or who can I ask this week about this? So I think reaching out to people who have gone through it has really helped us. You've got quite a few friends that have kids that are, 4, 5, 6 years old that we asked a lot of questions to.
Mm-hmm. On a side note, I heard Matt got frustrated putting some of these items together.
Yes, that was, I wish everybody could have been a fly on our wall that night, trying to put the car seat, try to get the car seat out of the little, I don't even know all the terms. That's how well, first time mom here, you can tell. The base that you put in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, foul language. I'm going to throw this in the fire. So basically, I was like, let's read the instructions. Let's go the logical route. No, I'm not reading those instructions.
There will be times that when the baby's in the car seat in the base, you still can't get it out. There are times that you're pushing on that red button, lifting up. I'm like, oh my gosh, why won't this come out?
And that's when they're screaming at you. That's when it gets real frustrating.
Yeah.
Or you can't find the pacifier that fell under the bed and the baby's screaming and it's 2 a.m. That's when it's like, man, this is what everyone was talking about.
Yep. And I'm going to think of those moments when I was in such a dark, kind of depressed state with the miscarriages and stuff, and not thinking this was ever going to happen, and hope that that's going to make those moments a little bit easier for me too. And for him as well, when my husband gets frustrated.
And I think, I've not been in your place. There are days where I have to think about that too. There's times, Blair's a toddler now, and I wouldn't say he throws fits, but there's times where he gets frustrated or is just cranky and he's crying or he's not eating.
He gets into everything.
Now. And there are times where I literally just have to stop myself and think, I am so blessed to have him. He's here. He's healthy. I'm able to stay home with him. No, I'm not going to enjoy every single minute of every day, but 90% of my time with him, I would say even more than that.
Yeah, perspective.
I'd go like 98%.
Perspective is huge. I mean, you're going to get frustrated. It's going to happen. Seeing the big picture, being patient, and really, I think helped Jill and I was communication and working together. If bottles need to be washed, instead of just let them sit, just go ahead and do it. If the baby needs to be changed, just go ahead and do it. Or, hey, do you need to go take a nap? Or if you're good, I need to go take a nap. That teamwork is really helped us. And I think another thing that helped us, neither of us lost our minds at the same time. There were times I wanted to launch a car seat or Jill wanted to throw something, but we never lost it at the same time, so we were able to keep each other balanced. I think that was a big one.
I think I threw the pacifier on the floor a couple times out of frustration.
Yeah, I did too.
Well,
okay.
see, you guys know I have 3 dogs, so that's my major concern right now, how I'm supposed to handle 3 dogs and an infant, while I'm on maternity leave and get that routine going. That's my biggest hurdle right now to go. How are we going to do this? Because they freak out just when the doorbell rings on the TV. Nobody's really at the door. So we're hoping that we can get our dogs a little bit better trained.
I think it'll help. It'd be May. You're doing mid-May.
Yes.
At least you guys got a fenced backyard. They might spend more time outside. I know Louie, our dog, spends a lot of time outside.
Now that I'm home every day, Louie thinks he's an outdoor dog. Now, come mealtime and bedtime, he's like, oh, I got to come inside now. But last summer, and I know this summer, he'll think he's an outdoor dog. But if you let you 3 out, they'll come visit Louie in our yard.
They'll entertain each other.
They're trying to be neighborly,
Now,
What are some things that you are excited about?
I'm excited to do all like the milestone, like the photos, taking him. I was talking to Matt recently. We saw everybody had their father-daughter dances. He's really excited about doing those kind of things with her, teaching her, how to do outdoorsy stuff, and looking forward to just, the camping trips and just watching her grow.
Well, I've seen Matt's dance moves, so I think he's going to have to pass those on.
Yeah, hopefully she gets those, because I've got 2 left feet, and he's got more rhythm than I do. I can definitely admit that.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see Matt when he has a little girl.
Honestly, I wish I could say I think I know how he's going to be, but he's just hot and cold all the time. You never know. Like one day he's going to be this way, one day he's going to be that way. So it'll be interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing him as a dad.
I think he'll melt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Jake, you and I had talked about this on a podcast, or I think you and I, Jen, have talked about it. For guys, there's a little bit of attachment there, definitely not like the mom, they carry the baby for 9 months and they have that emotional bond and always will. But I feel like for a lot of men, it really, that bond and that attachment and that protectiveness really doesn't happen until they're here. We've felt them move and kick in our bellies for how many months. And I know the men feel it too on the outside.
Yeah, it's different though.
Right. But I think once the baby's here, it really just sinks in. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a dad. Here's my son, or here's my daughter. And I feel like that natural instinct of wanting to provide for your family and your baby and being protective over your baby, especially having a little girl. I know you want to be protective over boys too, but having a little girl, I think definitely it'll sink in once she's here and he sees her.
I've heard that from several people too, that it takes till the baby's here for the dad to really, get on board, or, it's reality for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good news.
So Jake, was it that way for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've talked about this before, it's coming, but it's kind of like, we got a month. We got a couple weeks. But like I said, when you have that deer in the headlight moment at the hospital when you don't know where to go, it's like that's when it starts to really like, okay. And then when we got home, because there's no nurse button, it's just, okay, the baby's crying. My wife's sleeping. I got to figure out what I need to do. Mm-hmm. But it's natural for the most part. You just, go through hungry and change, tired, whatever it might be, and just kind of work through it, and you figure it out.
I've seen other guys that they're kind of the stubborn, hard-headed type, and as soon as their baby comes along, it's like it's second nature to take care of them. There's mother's intuition, and I think there's a little bit of father's intuition too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think guys that have girls and guys that have boys are a little different.
I've always said that. I
agree.
Men that have only boys compared to men that have even just one girl are completely different. I'm not saying one's bad versus good. It's just, I feel like the way they parent are 2 completely different ways. I feel like men that have one daughter, they just a little bit softer, I guess. At least with the girl. They might be a little harder with the boys.
Well, the good news is you guys will get to witness this being right across the street from us. So you'll get to see Matt in action.
I might have to have Matt on the podcast a few weeks after your daughter's born, just to see how he's changed. Because I know for me it was a big change, and how he's getting along with everything and all that good stuff. Now, you're going to have maternity leave, and one thing we've talked about a lot, other than parenting, becoming parents, is podcasting. You're an avid podcast fan?
I am. I listen to several podcasts. Thank you for creating yours, because now it's on my subscribe list. So the Jake School podcast is one of my top podcasts now.
Jill, do you subscribe to the Jake School podcast?
Not currently.
Not currently. Now,
but
Jen,
I will. I'll do that right after this.
Jen, you've listened to all the episodes?
I've listened to every one of your episodes.
Jill, how many episodes have you listened to? Other than the 2 that you were on?
1.
Okay. I appreciate your support, Jen.
No problem.
When did you start listening to podcasts?
About 2.5 years ago, in my job, I had to travel all the time. I'd be stuck in a car for 4 to 8 hours driving to different states, opening up properties. So I just looked at my podcasts. I'm like, what are these top podcasts? And started downloading them. And it was a way to just kind of escape from all the stress from my job while I was driving.
Yeah, I got into them really last year. On the last podcast, I talked about just struggling with some things. And I came across a clip of Joe Rogan's podcast with, I believe it was Jesse Itzler, talking about perspective and getting out of ruts and all that stuff. And I've been hooked ever since. I listen to him all the time. And I really like him because I get tired of music, especially radio. And AM talk is just commercial after commercial. By the time they get a good thought going, they got to go to commercial. So that's how I got listening to him. What are you listening to now?
I subscribe to Joe Rogan's podcast. That's one of my favorite. I like how his guests are such a variety. It could have nothing to do with, MMA or anything that Joe Rogan's associated with. He just wants interesting people on there to talk about what's going on, just to educate, in general. But they're very long. They're like 3 hours, sometimes 3.5 hours. So you really have to dedicate yourself to listen to that podcast. I also listen to Dax Shepard, Armchair Expert. Have you heard of that one?
I have not.
He interviews celebrities. He's married to Kristen Bell, if you know who that is. And he just interviews a bunch of people, and it's about an hour long, his episodes, and they just talk about all various things. Basically what we're doing right now, just normal conversation. And other than that, I don't have any other ones. These are the 3 main podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis.
The one I just started listening to is Bert Kreischer, which I talked about earlier. I like his because it's just him and another comedian. So where Joe Rogan is very informative, very educational, but sometimes they can get on topics he has neuroscientists and all these super smart people. I feel like it's in over my head to even listen to him. So sometime I'll listen to Bert and another comedian and get some good laughs. One I recommend for the ladies is Bert Kreischer's wife has one, and it's hilarious. She's from Georgia, and if you know anything about Bert Kreischer, he's a hilarious comedian. He was Rolling Stone did an article about him about being the best partier in college back in the 90s. So she has a ton of great stories, but it's from a woman's perspective, so it's really, really good.
And Bert tries to take it over all the time.
Yeah, if he's on it, he's taking it over. It's just their banter back and forth is fantastic.
Well, I'm going to recommend a husband and wife podcast that also is kind of a break off from Joe Rogan's. His name's Tom Segura. He's a comedian too. And him and his wife do a podcast together. So you guys kind of remind me when you do your episodes of Tom Segura and his wife.
It's, what's it called?
I don't know the name, but I'm sure if
Not
you
Your Mama's House or something like that.
Maybe.
You can look up Tom Segura.
Yeah.
And it's on there.
I think his wife's name's Christina.
Christina.
Right? She's also a comedian. Yeah. So it's very humorous, but you two, that was the first thing when I heard your guys' episodes. It reminded me of when they do their podcast.
Yeah, Jill's my favorite backup guest if I can't get someone booked.
A backup guest.
I think she does very well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Even though my husband thinks I'm a backup guest.
It's you or Blair, and he's asleep, so.
Well, we talked about possibly doing our own podcast, right?
Yeah. Cul-de-sac moms.
Cul-de-sac moms?
We can bring the real life truth of motherhood.
I think it'd be great. I mean, I think moms might need something like that because there's one thing I've learned about Jill and most moms, there's so much self-doubt. There's times like Blair won't eat or Blair won't do this. Jill takes it so personal, and it's a good thing. But
I've told you before why I think part of that is, since I do stay home with him, I feel wholly responsible for teaching him things. And I know a lot of it's just nature's way. You know, I don't have to teach him how to walk. He's just going to do it. Same with crawling. But I feel like there are things that, you know, we do have to show them how to do. You know, I kind of had to show him how to feed himself at sometimes and encourage him how to chew his food. And it's things like that, you know, he's not at daycare and he's not around a bunch of kids all the time. I feel like it's just me and him. I feel responsible for teaching him these things. And when he's not picking it up as fast as I thought he would, or not doing things that other kids are doing.
There's right there. There's another thing. Word of advice, moms, dads.
Don't compare yourself, I know, to other moms or compare your kid to another kid.
But see, again, that's natural. You're always going to compare. I'm going to compare my kid to how Blair's progressing or my other friends who have kids. It's just, that's how you gauge your kid, I think, just naturally.
And I think it's okay maybe to compare it, but don't take it personal. They all develop different.
Right.
You know, Blair didn't walk till he was 14 months. That's okay. You
and
didn't
Blair's
walk.
just now walking.
You were 14 months when you walked.
I was 14 months.
You're fine. You know,
You guys are good. I have no idea when I started walking.
Well, my older sister walked at 10 and a half months and I was 14 months. So apparently she's gifted and I just didn't feel like walking.
Yeah. You guys can both walk now, so it worked out.
I always say I wasn't challenged enough.
But I think a podcast about that, talking about stuff like that moms can listen to and get a little reassurance or think, oh, other moms went through that too.
And there have been times that I've talked to other moms or know of other kids that are super far behind and probably have developmental disabilities. And again, it's another one of those times where it puts things in perspective. Okay, you know, Blair's fine. He's doing great. He's right on schedule. Yes, he may be not doing some things other kids are doing, and then there's things that he's doing that other kids aren't doing. And so it's just that game of, you know, trying not to compare yourself as a mom to other moms and not trying to compare your kid to other kids.
So yeah, I think
Good advice. Thank you.
There you go. That's a podcast right there. You guys could, and you could. I think you could have moms on that. You know, they're in different stages of. You know, I have an infant or 5-year-olds or teenagers or whatever.
Oh, that's true, Jen. You're gonna have a teenage girl someday.
Yeah, that's scary. But that's why Matt's really good with guns, and he's probably going to scare every guy that comes around her,
Well,
I'm sure.
Jake has already told Blair, hey, the neighbor girl's off limits. Her daddy owns guns.
Yeah, he'll be the scary dad on the porch with a shotgun.
See, and I told you, I'm really excited that Blair's, 14 months older than, he'll be like 16 months older than she will be. So they'll probably go to school together and everything, and he can kind of protect her or be her little buddy,
Yeah.
and
Of course.
Yeah, like I said, I think a podcast like that would be great. I think a lot of women will listen to it. I think a lot of men listen to it. It's good to get a different perspective on issues that your wife is going through, because sometimes us men don't want to listen and we want to fix. That's probably our biggest fight, I would say.
Yes.
So now when we have an argument, not argument, but when Jill's talking, I ask, do I just need to listen or do you want me to help you? Like, we set ground rules.
very smart.
But I feel like when I say, I just want you to listen, you still want to help.
Well, I listen and then I try to help. I think it's natural. I think most couples I've talked to do the same thing.
Men they're problem solvers. They want to fix everything. Women are more emotional and they just want someone to listen to them.
Oh, I can tell you, at least during this pregnancy, I am so emotional. I like cry at like everything, and I didn't think my hormones were going to be this out of whack, but everybody's like, "Oh, it's natural, it's natural." But I think Matt thinks I'm a crazy person.
We've talked about how it doesn't go away once the baby's here. I mean, your hormones kind of balance out, but as far as getting emotional over little things,
Yeah, guys,
it's still there.
if your wife is getting crazy emotional, just step back, listen, which is hard for us to do. Just step back, listen, and it'll pass very quickly.
There's times I still cry over little things with Blair.
Yeah.
If he's not sleeping through the night and we don't know why or how to help him, yeah, I still cry.
See, again, reassuring. Then I know what to expect. Kind of like I'm really not crazy.
No,
You know.
No, you're
not
not
at all. And that's like I said, that podcast would be great because I think women, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of worry about their child. Obviously, it's very important, but if you're going through it, someone else probably went through it too.
And I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I don't really have much family here, or family in general. Matt's family's my family. And so I don't really have those resources where, I can reach out to his sisters, maybe ask them a question, or to his mom, his parents, but I don't really have that side of my family. So, that's been kind of a harder thing too to deal with, with trying to get information. So I do rely, like my friends are my family, basically. I take their advice, and I appreciate all the time that they want to, give me advice and help me out with things.
Yeah, our doors are always open. Jill's always willing to listen. If you want someone to listen, I'd recommend Jill instead of me.
Well, yeah.
Well, Jen, we appreciate you walking across the street to tell us your story. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's quite a story. You guys have went through so much, and now you're 2 months away.
Yes. Well, I appreciate it. I love being a guest.
And what's the name of the baby going to be?
Her name is Willow May Hollans.
And I forget, was Willow a family name, or is May?
May's a family name. So it's M-A-E. And so we're hoping that she's still born in May. So we can say little Willow May was born in May.
Oh, nice.
Where'd you get Willow at?
We just kept coming back to that name. We had some other names picked out, and we just kept coming back, and it was our favorite. So pretty much every time we got pregnant, we've always wished for a little girl. And once we found out it was a little girl at 20 weeks, we knew it was Willow.
That's good stuff. Like I said, we're happy for you guys, and we look forward to May coming along so we can meet her. Jill, you got anything else? Thanks for co-hosting today and offering a different perspective.
I'm glad I can be your second guest.
Well, if I can't line someone else up next week, you'll be back. As always, you can email me at thejakeswillpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram at thejakeswillpodcast. Thanks.